At 8:30, let's call the meeting to order and start with the pledge of allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the meeting of the Pfa Fire Authority. July 27th, 2020. My gosh, half a year's gone already. First item on the agenda, is there any person here that has any public comments maybe before the board? Eric, you have anything that?
Do not.
Very good, then we'll move the items, discussion items. Recognition and appreciation of board member Darren Atterbury's service. How nice is that? What a bittersweet day. Darren, we have a plaque here that we're going to present to you for an appreciation of 17 years of dedicated service as board member of the Pfa Fire Authority Board of Directors. August 24th, 2004, July 27th, 2001. How nice is that?
Okay.
Great member of this board and brought years of experience to us. Be hard to replace. We wish you well in your new endeavors. Thank you very much for your service.
Thank you. I appreciate it very much. Thanks for the team that's back in the back. I'm so grateful for the support over the years, and I love the relationships and the friendships and partnerships. And you know, the word bittersweet has been used a lot lately. I'm not running away from the city of Fort Collins or the community or the mayor or the council or the PFA board. I love the relationships that we've built. I love the strategy and the culture, and PFA is an amazing organization, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart. I will be the biggest champion for the Pfa Fire Authority as a community member, and I get to also be part of continuing to build community just in a different role. So I say sort of on the other side of the portfolio, but man, it's hard to believe it's been 17 years, but I'm so grateful for the professionalism and just the competencies and the passion of this group. And that's looking in the rearview mirror, looking forward in the through the windshield. It's, I just, so optimistic about the Pfa Fire Authority and in the city and the relationship between and Northern Colorado. So, yeah, what a treat. It's been a real privilege to be part of this board. And Chief, I'm so glad you're part of this team. And again, looking out the windshield at this organization, it's just nothing but, blue ocean and blue sky. And I'm grateful. Ron, I see Ron in the back smiling. And I'm so sorry about the dashboards and all the data-driven approach and the alignment and okay, hey, Sean, sorry, but Derek's shoulders are a little bit, but I'm really not sorry. I'm so grateful for the way that this team has. It's been a really good blend, and for those of you that sort of encouraged me to be on the Center for Public Safety Excellence board, that's been a great opportunity as well. And so, anyway, thank you. Thanks for the friendships and the work together, and we're not going anywhere. The good news is we get to be near our grandkids and near our kids. And I've said this to Emily, I won't be the guy that shows up on Tuesday night at 6 o'clock at city council meetings, but I'll be happy to step up and help build the community in any way that either PFA or the city needs that. So anyway, this is pretty cool. Yeah, I've been thinking about, can I actually pry this badge out? I'm just kidding.
You just wear the whole plaque.
A little bigger chain.
And you've been a steadfast, durable partner, and I'm so grateful for. And I know you're leaving the organization, but PFA moving forward is in a big way sort of a reflection of you as well. So I'm grateful for our friendship. Thanks, everybody. And I want to say for the first time in 17 years, I've been placed at like the adult table. Usually I'm like down in the far end. We can just easily push them off the table. I'm teasing.
Well, you're finally growing up.
Finally growing up.
Let's move to that.
You guys are awesome.
Darren, we'll miss you. Thank you for your contributions. You're a valuable member of this board. Be hard to replace, but we wish you best in your new venture. And you know you're always welcome.
Thank you.
We'll miss your thoughts. Congratulations again on the new job.
Thanks. Hey, Mike, thank you for your friendship as well.
Well, thank you.
You've been a nice, you've been a great fun chair.
Thank you.
Puns and I wish I just had a pun right there. That would have been perfect.
Pun? What's a pun?
But I really, you've stepped up so many times in the years that we've worked together, and I'm grateful for our friendship. You've given so much to this community as well. So
Well, thank you, dear. Not the end, it's the beginning. Great fishing down there south. Very good. Let's move forward then. Item 2, introduce and recognize Poudre Fire Authority paramedics. Eric, I guess that's your job. And
I'll let Bandy, if you want to go cover that.
Sure. But just very proud to say that right now we have five of our line paramedics up and running and taking care of the citizens at an ALS level. So exciting. We were going to try to be there. Dan Rush was the very first one. So when you go through their bios, but all five of them are doing fantastic. I have to give some shout out to Amy Maddox and Acting Battalion Chief Esteban Guzman to get them up to speed. And they're ready to go out there and take care of our citizens and also help teach our other firefighters, bring them up to a higher level too. So we're working alongside UC Health. We're working with all of our 8 partnering agencies to make sure that we're delivering the best EMS that we can to our citizens. So, but just to shout out their names: Dan Rush, Dan Evans, Paul Baca, Evan Fight, and Jason Jones are all, most of them are at Station 4. Dan Evans is acting on the tower right now. So he's able to practice his craft as a tower captain. So it's pretty exciting.
what does it take to become a paramedic?
Quite a bit of schooling, and then you do your rides. Chief Bergstrom I think your license is still good. So he's still a paramedic, but quite a bit of schooling. You do clinicals in the hospital, you do clinical rides in the ambulances. And for us, these 5 individuals had their paramedic licenses when they came to PFA. So we were able to work with Dr. Tremblay and get them signed off so they could do it. So we really spent some time with each one of them to make sure that their skills and knowledge were up to speed. And now we given them the tools in the engine to perform their craft.
And so we use them. How do we make sure that the skills stay?
So continuing education for them will annually. So they have quite a few certifications that they have to make sure that they keep up. And we're just keeping records of that and making sure that we give them the time and the opportunity to keep those certifications up.
Well, that's great. It takes a lot of effort to do that. So good to have them on our team.
Yeah, pretty exciting times for the PFA.
So Bandy, we supported that, right? I mean, they didn't have to do that outside of their working hours, did they?
No, we supported it, yeah, to get them signed off. But all of them had the paramedic when they came here. So they had all done that work previously before being employed by PFA.
Oh, okay.
So a couple of them worked for UC Health here in town. I think Dan Rush was with, I think he was with Thornton Fire, but he was with a paramedic with a fire agency also prior to coming. Evan was in the military. So they brought their skill set, their knowledge, their certifications prior to coming.
Okay. What's the long-term plan?
We're working on that now. So with all the changes in EMS, we're in deep discussion. It's within our top 3 priorities that we're looking at. So we're working with UC Health, the leadership over there. You might remember their names, Ryan McLean and Kevin Waters. So we're working closely with them on trying to really look at how we can. Chief Bertram said it very well. He said, hey, if we had a clean slate, how would we want to do this now? And that's what we have. So we have a clean slate. We can really plan this and build it the way we need to build it to help the citizens.
Well, that's a good move. Thank you for your leadership on that.
Thank you, sir.
Next item on the agenda is a review of the Poudre Fire Authority Board Agenda Planning Calendar. We have that before us. Anybody have any comments? Charlie? Go ahead.
Yeah, I do have one comment. I learned last week that Chief Burston and I have a Center for Public Safety Excellence board meeting that's scheduled that conflicts with the PFA board meeting. And I shared in advance with you, Chair DeTulio, that I think it'd be good to have the chief at that national board meeting. And if we could adjust our PFA board meeting a week before or a week after, whatever works timing wise, I would suggest that. I'm not going to be on the PFA board, so it's a bit presumptuous of me to say that, but I think it would benefit PFA and SIPSI to have him participate in that national board. And so maybe what I'm suggesting, I don't have the calendar in front of me, but what I'm suggesting is the meeting that's scheduled for September 28th, maybe we look at an alternative date, and that would allow the chief to participate in that national conversation. So that, other than that, that's the only comment that I have about the planning calendar.
Where would we have to change the week or just do it later in the week?
Yeah,
I'm not sure how long are you going?
I think it's a Monday, Tuesday meeting.
Yes.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so we could do it later in the week, a Thursday maybe or something.
Yeah, and I think if it works for the board, maybe it's something that we just ask for support from Kirsten or someone to help kind of arrange when the best.
I can send out a doodle poll and find out when's best for you.
Does that work?
That would work.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
So do we don't need to do anything. We just, Kirsten, you got an idea what, let us know. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments on the calendar? Okay, let's move on then to the 2020 Comprehensive Annual Financial Report.
We have a couple attendees or panelists on Zoom today, and I'll just call them out really quickly. We've got Chris Telly with BKD. He's our auditor, and he's going to present the audit to you today. Also, the city's accounting team, Kelly Bowden, Jordan Bernath, and Blaine Dunn. And I just want to thank them all for their hard work, and not just during the audit, but all year long in supporting us over here at PFA. It is a clean audit again this year, and it has been submitted to the state and to GFOA for consideration of their award. And so with that, I will just turn it over to that team and let them roll with it.
Okay.
Okay, good morning. This is Chris Telly with BKD. Very good to see you all. Blaine, Kelly, did you just want me to go ahead and jump in, or do you want to start off with any comments from your end? I'll take that as go ahead and jump in. Okay.
Blaine, we can't hear you.
Kirsten, if it's okay, I'm going to try to share my screen.
Yeah, that should work.
Well, it should work, but I'm not the best at this, so I'll do my best.
All right.
Somebody could give me a thumbs up when you do see my screen. Should be the audit report itself, the
Yeah.
opinion itself.
We can see it, Chris. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. So again, my name is Chris Telly. I am the partner with BKD and the partner on the engagement. Thank you very much for having me this morning, and good morning to all. What you are looking at on my screen right now is our audit opinion over the financial statements. As Kirsten mentioned, it is a clean opinion, an unmodified opinion, if you will. That is, of course, the opinion that you want to receive and everyone strives to receive. I will also point out that right here in this area, we do the audit under government auditing standards as well as generally accepted auditing standards in the United States. So that's just a little bit of added assurance. I am on packet page 28 right now for anyone who is not seeing my screen, might be on a call or following along on paper. There's just a few items I'd like to point out on the financial statements themselves. And then I will go ahead and speak to our required communication letter and make a few opinions or a few comments about our second opinion once I get to that. So I am going to jump over to packet page 42. Excuse me, the numbers are a little bit off, and just point out a few things here. As you, of course, are aware, this is the first full year of being in the FPPA statewide hybrid plan, as well as the statewide defined benefit plan. The results of being included within that plan are shown under non-current assets. It has a net pension asset. So in this case, the plan is actually overfunded, which generates an asset to those participants within these plans. There are also some items here you see down below on the deferred outflow of resources and deferred inflow of resources, referred to as other pension related items. These are what I would call the items that are deferred within the pension plan. So these will be recognized within pension expense in future years, either as a debit to pension expense, increasing that expense, or a credit to pension expense, reducing that expense, whatever the case may be. This is the normal mechanics of how these plans work under what's referred to as GASB 68. So it's actually a happy, normally I'm talking about pension plans and I'm talking on the side of pension liabilities, and they're usually these massive numbers that people hate to see. But in this case, it is a net pension asset, which is wonderful. I'm now going to jump over to packet page 49, again, in your lower right-hand corner. This is the retirement health savings fund that was brought into the financial statements in the prior year, so in 2019. In 2019, the authority adopted what was referred to as GASB 84, fiduciary activities. Through the analysis and the adoption of that standard, this plan, the RHS plan, a portion of which was included within the statements of the authority's comprehensive annual financial report. During 2020, the plan was moved to a new third-party provider. It changed the fiduciary relationship between the authority and the plan itself, the trust fund itself, and that no longer qualifies as an activity to be included within the financial statements of the authority itself. Hence the reason you see all zeros here. And that is the reason why on the next page, you will see a transfer out of the reporting entity obviously being the authority in this case, of the $592,000 and no net position at the end of the year. So this plan will not be reported within the reporting entity going forward from an accounting point of view. It's still out there, of course. It's still available. It's still functioning just fine. The bottom line, though, is that under the current accounting standards, It is no longer includable within the financial statements of the authority. And I will pause there for just a moment in case there are any questions. That's a lot of information to hit you with at 8:50 in the morning. Okay. If there are no questions, I do just want to point out the footnote that is generated from the pension plans that I mentioned earlier. It begins on the bottom of page, packet page 65. It is note Roman numeral 4C, employee retirement systems and pension plans, of course. I'm not going to read this entire footnote to you because you would hang up on me actually, but it is a long footnote. It goes on for a full 10 pages, but I will point out this table to all of you. This shows the net pension asset and the related pension activity for each of the two plans that ties back to the face statements that we just looked at a moment ago. So this actually disaggregates that number for you. So if you wanted to say, okay, what's the impact of just the statewide defined benefit plan, you can see that here on packet page 68 in this table. And again, this runs on, these are all required disclosures under GASB. GASB loves disclosures. There's also some additional required supplementary information that is included within the financial statements themselves. So those are the big changes within the statements. You'll see this footnote and you'll see this type of accounting and recognition of the pension plan going forward. It will change, of course. Pension plans do have the ability to swing pretty drastically from one year to the next. It's just the nature of what they are, depending on what the markets do and that type of thing. I believe one of these plans, don't hold me to this, but I believe one of these plans was actually in a negative position just a few years ago and has turned around. But FPPA does a really good job, and I believe the statewide benefit plan has been hanging in that asset position for quite a few years now. If there are no questions on the financial statements, I will move to packet page 95, which is our required communication letter. These are the items that we, as your auditors, are required to communicate to you, the board, those charged with governance. It speaks to the audit scope as well as the results. Again, it mentions here that the audit is performed under government auditing standards issued by the Comptroller General of the United States. There is a separate opinion that goes along with that, which I will get to in just a moment. Spells out where the significant accounting policies are contained within the financial statements, in this case being note 1. And everywhere you see no matters being reported, this simply means that there was nothing to report to you under this particular heading. So there are no alternative accounting treatments that we noted. In every audit and in every set of financial statements, there is significant management judgments and accounting estimates. That's the nature of what how accounting is done, of course, the nature of what management is doing. The two primary ones in these financial statements include the fair value of investments, which, believe it or not, is actually an estimate, and then the depreciable lives of capital assets. We simply point those out to you so that you're aware of them. This letter is not saying that there are any issues with these estimates, nor is it saying that there are any issues with these significant financial statement disclosures enclosed, that being revenue recognition and, again, investments. We just simply point them out to you. If you were only going to read very small pieces of the financial statements, these are probably the footnotes we would point you to. There were no proposed audit adjustments this year, which is a great thing. I do like to point that out whenever there are none. It just shows the quality of the financial reporting. There was one, what we refer to as past adjustment, included within this packet and within this letter, but that one item was a reversal effect of a waived adjustment from the prior year. So anytime that there is a adjustment that we propose that management decides not to make for whatever reason that might be, we obviously believe that is immaterial to the financial statements. In the subsequent year, there's a turnaround or a reversal effect of that entry. That is the one entry you see reported to you within this letter. No disagreements with management, which is obviously a great thing. We did have some discussions with management here as far as in regards to the FPPA plan and what that would look like and entering that plan. No real issues to report there. Also attached to this letter is management's representation letter. That is the representation that management makes back to the auditors. Again, it's attached to this letter. You can see those representations further on. And finally, the only other additional item we would have to report is just a reminder that there are new accounting pronouncements coming down the road. The one we point out to you here is the new lease standard referred to as GASB 87. It was postponed by 1 full year. Actually, your year end, you actually got 2 full years in the postponement, which was a happy gift from the GASB, I would say. So you have until year ending or year beginning 2022. So January 1st of 2022 is when that standard is technically effective. My advice to every one of my clients I am making and making pretty strongly is do not wait until the year of adoption. It really needs to be something you're thinking about right now. If you expect significant impact from this standard, one thing it involves, one thing it requires is for you to collect all your lease agreements and analyze those agreements under the new standard. That is going to be time consuming and a difficult process and not something you're going to be able to do, in the last quarter of 2022, for instance. This is the past adjustment schedule I mentioned to you earlier. And then finally, I will point out the internal control report. This is what we refer to as either financial reporting over internal controls and compliance report, or just simply the yellow book report. It is a required report under government auditing standards. In a nutshell, what it says is that we have an unmodified opinion over financial report, over the internal controls over financial reporting. We don't actually give an opinion on those controls directly, but we give an opinion over whether or not there's any deficiencies to report over those controls, over the financial reporting, as well as compliance of grants, agreements, and provision of laws, etc., as required by government auditing standards. So again, another clean opinion, obviously what you strive for. And with that, I will open it up if there are any questions, or if Blaine, Kelly, or Kirsten would like to make any other comments. Okay. Well, thank you again. Darren, if you don't mind, I would like to just take a moment. This is probably the last chance I'll have to speak with you. I would like to just take a moment to thank you for your support and cooperation during the course of the audit and throughout the audit, both for the authority and as well for the city itself. So thanks for everything, and I wish you the very, very best of luck in future endeavors.
Thanks, Chris. And I was feeling inclined to say the same thing to you. You've been an amazing partner, you and your team, and I'm grateful for the relationship. I think the community is well served by your leadership and your teams and your firms, and PFA as well. So Chris, you've been a great partner over these last few years, and I'm grateful for it.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Thank you very much for the audit. Did the board have any questions regarding the audit?
I have a question, Mike.
Dave, go ahead.
Chris, I don't know whether this is a question for you or not, but on page 482, we talk about having a net position of $50 million. And I'm not really sure what net position means, but is it money we have in the bank? And if it is, are we being responsible to have that much money in the bank, taxpayer money? I don't know what other organizations do or not, but I mean, that's over a year's worth of operating expenses for us. And I don't know, is that I've never noticed or paid attention to this before, but it made me wonder whether we're being responsible as a board, as an authority,
Sure.
to keep that much money in net position.
Yeah, I'm happy to make a couple comments, and then, of course, I'll turn it over to management, and they may make any additional comments as well. The net position is essentially your equity in the organization. So it's assets less your liabilities equals your net position. It includes cash in the bank, but it is not equivalent to cash in the bank. And as you can see, if you're looking at the net position line item on hard copy page 26, packet page 42, a large portion of that net position is actually tied up in capital assets. About $28 million of that is in your capital assets. What that's telling you is, again, you have a large portion, or about half of your, a little bit more than half of your net position is in your capital assets. So you get a sense of how much of that is truly liquid. The unrestricted portion is 24.5 million. And that contains not only the cash, but then investments, any receivables, any of the unrestricted areas of the authority. So cash and investments is largely within the city's pool. It is being cared for as you would want it to be cared for over that responsibility, but it's not the same as net position itself. And again, Kirsten, Blaine, Kelly, please make whatever additional comments you would like to.
Thanks, Chris. I would just point the board to, on that packet page 42, if you look under current assets, you can see the cash and cash equivalents line and the investments line listed there. So about 7.9 million in cash and cash investments, and then 18.2 in investments. That is generally a little higher on the cash side than we normally keep. Usually we would keep a little bit more of that portion in investments, but coming out of the pandemic in 2020, we went a little more cash heavy on the city side, which this board is part of the city's investment pool. So we kept a little more cash on hand as we went through that pandemic. So that is currently being unwound to be a little more on the investment side to the question about how much we should really have sitting in the bank.
Thank you.
David, if I could add to that as well. This is kind of the difference between accounting and budgeting. You know, accounting takes into account the assets that are our stations, our engines, all of those things as capital assets, plus the money we have set aside in our capital projects, and which is a budgeting matter, is really where our decisions are being made. And so when you talk about our assets being, you know, we keep saying we're on our own. If we're going to build a new station, we have to save that money up until we have enough.
Right.
And so that's why when you look at our cash and our capital projects as opposed to our capital assets, that's a lot of what's going on there is we're saving up for the next station. We're saving up for the next tower. Those are all really budgeting matters of where the money is that you're making decisions about.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the difference between accounting and budgeting,
Sure.
which is budgeting is what we talk about the most.
Right.
But every year we also have to sit down and talk about accounting. And Kirsten has worked so well with the team at the city, and we really appreciate all of them and the work that they do to keep our accounting piece of the puzzle going too.
We'll be bringing this to you in September too, with the reserves and the reserve balance and what we plan to do with that if we do anything with that.
Right.
So we'll be talking about that more in September, November, December.
Good, dear.
Blaine, so thank you for your comments around the investment portfolio. Can you, Blaine, just take a minute and share any insights or sort of observations coming out of pandemic from an investment portfolio that might be useful for this board?
Sure.
Sorry, I know, you know, I didn't ask you to do that in advance, so I apologize, but we're on the topic.
No, I'm happy to give a little bit on that. So coming out of the pandemic, what we're really watching from an investment perspective is the Fed and the FOMC and when they might raise the overnight rate. Currently, it's sitting at about 25 basis points, and they continue to signal that they are not planning to raise that. So what we're trying to do on the city investment portfolio is find as much yield as possible where we can, knowing that it's unlikely that we'll see any raise in interest rates. Currently, we're looking at probably about an 18-month time frame. There's been some people saying that it needs to be raised sooner. So right now we're kind of trying to find as much yield as we possibly can on the investment side as we wait for that underlying rate to get raised a little bit so we can get more yield. So that's kind of where we're sitting right now. It's a constant push and pull, but I'll tell you in my 1 minute, the other thing I'll tell you is that we do make sure that we take a dollar cost averaging approach. So we spread out our investment purchases as much as possible to not try and time the market by any means. We buy investments for the long run. We try to hold all of our investments to maturity, being mostly fixed assets. And so we're not trying to time markets when we see a spike or a drop. We kind of average that out over the course of a week, a month, a year.
That's great. Thanks, Blaine. And then one other question. The total portfolio that you and your team are managing right now is plus or minus X, and what amount of PFA is that total?
So the total portfolio that we're managing is right around $500 million. That includes the city PFA and the library district as well. And the PFA portion of that is sitting at just about $26 million.
Thank you, Blaine. And I'm looking at a going away cake here. So any of my colleagues who are in accounting in Fort Collins, you're welcome to come down to Remington and share a piece of cake. As I shared my appreciation for Chris and his team, Blaine, you guys have been rock stars as well. And Kirsten, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention your work in this space, and Ann as well. I mean, you've been, PFA is in some of the financial condition that it is because of your work over the past few decades. And so I just really appreciate your leadership in this space and the way that you've worked with Ann and Chief Dement as well and others. So yeah, this is it's a great financial report to be leaving on. I mean, we're in this Poudre Fire Authority is in sound condition, in fact. And in my opinion, sort of, as I talked about, looking out the windshield, in really, really good shape. So I'm really thankful. And to my colleagues in accounting as well. You guys are amazing. And Blaine, I really like what you're doing as a leader in that space. So thanks, everyone.
Any other questions from the board? Eric, you had any thoughts?
No, I think just echo, all the work that Kirsten does on that. It's pretty incredible, and the time and effort she puts into it, and really pays off. And all that was done prior to me getting here. And, like I said, what Darren commented, excited about the future and because of the financial stability and how things have been done. So.
Well, this day and age, to have an organization in this financial condition and with the assets and the personnel we have, we're just unique here, and reflects the team effort and the commitment this community has to excellence. So kudos to everybody, and thank you for the report.
Thank
We
you.
just need a motion to approve the audit.
Make that motion.
I'll second.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thanks again.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Have a good day. Thank you. So moving forward, we got the consent agenda. Includes the June 22nd Fire Authority Board meetings, Fire Code Review Committee, adopting 2021 International Fire Code, 7 resolution authorizing fire chief to execute a contract for over $885,134 for the final phase of the hazardous material apparatus conversion, resolution approving Pulse Point grant funds, 4th Amendment amended intergovernmental agreement for the establishment of Lermer Emergency Telephone Authority, and 10, the ratification of the 2022 collective bargaining agreement. Anyone have any questions on this? I would ask Derek, could you give us a summary of the collective bargaining agreement? I noticed Jason's here.
Yes, yep. Yeah, President Jason Mantis is here.
Welcome, Jason.
So we covered this a little bit, but I'll just go into some more detail. So we had roughly about 4 meetings. And I think before we even started that, we had some discussions with union president and the executive board of, what we wanted those negotiations to look like. The union was offered up to not have attorneys in the room, which I thought was a very good start. I think that really gave some opportunity to have some open discussions to really talk about what the process is going to look like. Agreed on ground rules pretty quickly. I think even a little work, to bring Kirsten in this again, is that she worked with one of the union executive board members to actually what the numbers were that we were going to base our discussions off in negotiations. I think that's something that really sets a tone for how that everybody agrees on what we're going to be talking about and what we're going to compare it to. And I think those really helped with the negotiations, that everybody had that understanding. One in negotiations, just 2 items was wages, and then the other was a leave policy, which we were able to clear up pretty quickly. I think just everyone having the open mindset and the cooperative tenor throughout the entire negotiations really benefit us coming to an agreement after a couple of weeks. And the team that sits behind me here did an incredible job. And same thing, kudos to the local for all their efforts that they put in for the pre-work and the work during negotiations to get where we're at today, to have a collective bargaining agreement in front of you to agree on and approve. And we thought it was a very significant to ask the president to come down and personally sign it with the chair, you, Mr. DiTullio, once the board approves it.
Very good. I think this is a great beginning for your tenure. Jason, thank you for your efforts. Do you have any comments you'd like to make?
Just very appreciative to get a deal done as we did. It was very quick, a lot of open and transparent communication, a lot of collaboration, and it was a good process. So we're very appreciative of that and being able to work with you.
I think that's just fantastic that we're able to accomplish this with a minimal amount of anguish. So thank you for everybody for making it happen. Everybody, any comments on it? Good job from everybody's standpoint. Thank you, Jason.
Mike, I have another comment. I brought this up yesterday, but on the fire code review, I asked Jerry yesterday to at least get on the table a discussion of single family home sprinklers. And I know it's controversial, but we, in the last 5 years anyway, we've had several deaths that would have been prevented had we had sprinklers in the homes. And so I'd like to at least get it on the table and have it part of the discussion. There's that video out of that shows the flashover and what a sprinkler does to prevent that. And maybe that's something that ought to be shown to the committee. Anyway, I thought I ought to mention at this board as well that's a suggestion that I've made, that we take that under consideration. I know it costs more, which reminds me, maybe we ought to think about having somebody from the Home Builders Association or a home builder. We had a home builder on our district board, would be probably a good member of your community or your team to look at it.
Yes, sir. And I'm grateful for the conversation, and we will in fact do that. Where the PFA is also a part of the city's code adoption stakeholder process. So we'll have an opportunity to be at that table. And I'm grateful as well that you've mentioned that we've had quite a few saves in town of structure and protection of life because of sprinkler activations. And there's really an opportunity in this space of going in the code adoption to try to get that memorialized.
And of course, we'll be able to bring that back to this board. The amendments and suggestions by our stakeholder committee for review.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Motion, second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Sign it over there by.
Next is,
Are you okay if we sign that?
absolutely.
Okay. Kirsten's gonna get out the copy.
That's a big contract.
I know, right?
I don't want to consider
Can
paperless.
you tell us the details of that?
Yes, I could. You just got it though.
Memorialized.
Yes.
Jason, good to see you, my friend.
Oops. That's a trick pen.
Dress them up.
That must have been made in Italy. Oh, my goodness.
Your secretary that will sign for. Okay, I'll get one. Okay.
Good job, Jason. Thank you.
All right.
We're a little, yeah, sturdier.
It's too strong.
Oh, my goodness.
Let's deny it. Let's be a big meeting.
Now you're obligated.
Our next item is a staff report regarding the inspection program.
Yes, that'll be, Ron Sims will be in that presentation.
Hi, Ron.
Good morning. I'll try to be brief. Try. Darren mentioned kind of the program enhancement, program improvement, self-assessment, all those things. And really, this is a summary of us continuing to do that. And I joked about Sean taking over. And this is really one of the really great things about having a 5-year rotation for a planning chief and accreditation manager. And what self-assessment does for an organization is with Chief Howell's leadership and as the fire marshal, and I'm the deputy fire marshal. We've looked at the inspection program through the lens of, are we doing the right things and how do we get better? So Chief Howell started this prior to me moving down to fire prevention in January of 2021. So the report today is just kind of a under staff recommendation. You have seen that we're presenting this to you so that you're aware of the process that we're moving forward with. Kind of introduce to you Brycer, Nick. I'll introduce Nick Dimicus. He's from Brycer. He's here just to answer questions if you have any from them. He's on the call today. I worked with him about the implementation plan that you saw in the agenda item summary. So he's going to answer some questions. I'll just give you a brief synopsis and we'll go from there. But we wanted to present this to the board. Chief asked us to do this too because we do have to do a pretty robust education process for the business community, for the customers out in Fort Collins and in the county. They're used to PFA doing inspections a certain way. So we need to work through that as we move forward. So just a little bit of background. In 1984, PFA, we've always had an inspection program as long as we've been a fire, right? In 1984, Poudre Fire Authority started what's called confidence testing, or as part of the inspection process, we would run the tests on sprinkler systems and suppression systems that are in the community. It's kind of an aggressive and also very innovative process back in 1984 because we did have an aggressive sprinkler ordinance, the 5,000 square foot rule, which is still in place in Fort Collins. You have to fire separate down to 5,000 square feet, or if it's larger, it had to be sprinkled back then. The code has since really caught up. And, sprinklers are a way of life in building today in the commercial environment. Today, we're trying to push it in the residential environment. But all these systems need to be tested. 1984, not a lot of sprinkler contractor companies in the state of Colorado. Most of them were in Denver. It was hard to get them up here to test. And then there was also questions as to whether or not it was responsible to have an unregulated industry testing things and then saying you need to do repairs. So PFA, we filled that gap. We started a program that was funded through fees. We started doing all the confidence testing for the sprinklers. That grew throughout the years. And as you know, all the building continues. There's more systems, more complex systems. I won't bore you with some of the details on how complex some of these systems can get. But our inspection program has grown to try to keep up with that pace. But in our evaluation, we feel like we can actually turn the confidence testing or the suppression system testing back over to contractors, to private industry. There's over 200 contractors that Nick works with here in Northern Colorado and in the Denver area that are willing to do this work. They're certified, they're more than capable. They can do that part of the testing and we can turn our inspectors more comprehensively into the fire and life safety inspections, hazardous materials, collecting more information in some of that area. We talk about the money budget all the time. We also talk about the time budget. You only have so much time with the personnel that you have to get things done. So we look at this as a force multiplier. We really will still get the inspections done or we'll get the confidence testing done and we'll get our inspections done. And maybe even more comprehensively. And I'm not saying that we haven't been doing them comprehensively, but we can do a better job doing that. That's made possible because of Nick and Brycer. What Brycer is basically a software company that actually they capture all the information from, hey, Mr. Business Owner, it's time for you to get your test, get with your sprinkler contractor, and then the sprinkler contractor does the test and submits the forms back to Brycer and they keep track of them. If there's a violation, Brycer will actually go back and say, hey, you have a violation, you have 30 days to correct according to our policy. You saw in the implementation plan that kind of a template of what those correspondences can look like, and we can tailor that to our needs and how we want to communicate with our businesses. If we don't have Brycer to do that, we have to do it all. We have to hire FTEs to be able to take all that information and they send it to us and we put it into our own system. So Brycer is no cost to put a fire through. The cost is actually the way that they work is they do a $15 fee to the contractor, who's actually in this case is fairly happy to do this, to pay the fee because it's actually opening up their business in Northern Colorado. And PFA also, we're in discussions, we have the capability to add a little bit onto that to supplement some of our revenue streams for that as well. We're still in discussions with that. The senior leadership team and Chief Howler are doing that. So that cost is borne by the contractor, not the PFA. So really Brycer, for the opportunity to come in and help us out with tracking this, they get paid in that fashion. Of course, the customer, the business owner still has to pay for the inspection that themselves with the private contractor. Yesterday at the district board meeting, Dave asked, or I believe it was Mike asked, I'm sorry, about some of that cost. There could be increases in costs for certain businesses. There could be decreases in costs. There are cases where some businesses are actually running two sets of tests. They have to still do the private test based on what their insurance requires, as well as what we do. So it's we see it as kind of a wash, but it's also opening up competition. With over 200 private contractors willing to do this work, the businesses can shop and they can get the best customer service that they can. And back in 1984, there was not a lot of regulation. The state was not involved. All of these contractors now there's state regulation on it. And then also in the city of Fort Collins, they have to be registered to do work in the city of Fort Collins. There's not that same requirement in the county, but in the city of Fort Collins, that's there. So we're very comfortable with that transition. I think that's pretty much what I have. It's based on, so just to do a summary, reevaluation of our program. That's kind of the why and what we wanted to look at. We wanted to improve the program as well as make sure that our contractors have the opportunity to do this work, improve our inspection program, and continue to move forward with maybe capturing better some of our hazardous materials and other areas in high-risk occupancies. So, I'll entertain any questions that you might have for me, and I know Nick's on, he can answer any questions.
Good job. I think it's a good step forward for us.
Thank you. And I failed to mention it. We are the only fire department that we found in the state of Colorado and maybe in the nation that's still doing confidence testing in this, the way that we've done it. In working with Nick, he's got sprinkler contractors that are chomping at the bit. They want to do this work in Fort Collins. Partnership, right now, Loveland Rescue Fire Authority and Windsor Severance in Northern Colorado are partners. They are actually using Brycer, and they're doing the same system. And we worked closely with them as well as Brighton. We've asked those entities, hey, how is this working for you? Are you finding any trouble with contractors? Because we like the fact that our people are out there doing this testing. Gives us a certain amount of control, but we haven't found anybody that's unhappy with Brycer or the contractors, and the sprinklers are still saving property and lives out in the community.
Very good. Thank you, Ron. Any questions from the board? Good job. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Nick.
Briefing papers and other business here.
Just looking here quick. As far as the overview, I don't know if anybody has any questions, but if you don't mind, just take a couple of minutes, kind of give a recap over the last month. That's all right.
Absolutely.
Just want to let the board know, report to the district board yesterday, completed all the station visits for every station, every shift. Got some great feedback. Nice thing for me, I got to meet everybody and talk with them. My family got invited out a couple of dinners at some stations, which was nice. So it's been a while since my children have been in the fire station. But yeah, we took all that information, took notes from all the meetings and feedback, and met with the leadership team. Really benefit having that dialogue and what the company line personnel were saying. Met with all the divisions except the training EMS, have that scheduled for about a week and a half out that we'll be meeting with them. But we're using that information to kind of drive where we're going next. I think one of the significant things, common thread through all that was, what's the vision of PFA now? That everyone's asking. So we want to be very deliberate and make sure that we focus on what's best for PFA and the citizens that we serve. And I know Vandy had mentioned that we had three of the key things that were discussed that came up most predominantly through all the station visits was what's the EMS look like, the delivery for that? What about an extra support company or fire company? And then as far as the RAM, what's the future of the RAM look like? So I think all three of those that we're really focusing our time and energy on. As soon as we finish working on the budget, that's going to be what our focus is going to be for the rest of the year, then going into 22 along with updating our strategic plan. So I think all that really aligns well of what the feeling of the department is and what direction that they're looking for and what we need to focus our energy on. So I think that's some of the things that we're really working hard on, and then also filling vacant positions. So the interim operations chief, I know I've talked with the board members on that, and then we have the EMS positions. And sad to say, but Ann's leaving also, so we have her position to fill. And then we're working. She doesn't look sad. You said you're going to at least look sad.
Oh, I'm sorry. I will work on that.
At least look sad. At least not have as big a smile as Darren has all the time. So. And then fire prevent or community risk reduction is filling 2 positions there. So I think getting the whole organization, all those vacant positions filled, responsibilities, getting those back on track is really going to help, get us moving forward. And the exciting thing just resonated with me, and I'll get off a little track, off track a little bit is the incredible staff that's here. And I think that really resonated through all the station visits. And then all the really difficult discussions and conversations had with the leadership team about, where do we want to go? 'Cause it's all about priorities. And just really resonates with me that got an excellent leadership team here and that the personnel, and to me, that's the most important part of any organization, that the people that work there. And, I wouldn't be here if it had not been for Darren. I just want to say thank you to him for our relationships. And over the last 5 or 6 years serving on SIPSI together and getting to know him and what he thinks of an organization and what he contributes and what he drives to make it better. And I think I would not have been here if it had not been for him. So thank you for your friendship and all the conversations that we've had over the last 5 years. And I know you're right around the corner, so looking forward to having you as a neighbor here. So, but I think that this visiting the stations really resonated and concreted to me that this is the right organization for me to be at. And the boards have been incredible, supportive, and just, having the conversations really makes me feel good about where I'm at and what we can accomplish here, and just all the continuing things that I learned of what a high performing organization this is. And makes me very proud just for the 2 short months that I've been here, just to be here and what we're able to do and what the potential that we have for Poudre Fire Authority working with the city of Fort Collins. And then had the opportunity last week, just kind of, I know some of it's in the operations view here, but went on a rope rescue up in the canyon, and it took over 6 hours. And just, the training and expertise that goes in with that, nothing I've ever seen for someone to be 240 feet up on a ledge, and took over 6.5 hours to get up and get them back down. And the professionalism that PFA exhibits at. And then the next night we went up in the canyons for the floods, that the surrounding organizations looked to PFA to be a leader, to come in with their training and expertise to come and assist in times like that. And then when we came back in town, we had 2 fires right in downtown Fort Collins, which is not commonplace here in Fort Collins, but to see how well everyone performed, staff came in that was needed, and to mitigate both those incidents and to support all the operations is very impressive, coming from my viewpoint. So just wanted to mention those. Last week was a very busy week, and the staff is always preparing, cognizant for wildfires, flooding, and just how an incredible job that they do on a daily basis. And, it is a 24/7 operation, and storms and wildfires and fires don't wait for any of the days of the week when everyone's here, and everyone pitches their time in, comes in whenever they're needed. So just want to make sure I took an opportunity to thank them, because last week was a very busy week, and they said it's unusual to have 2 fires in one day. And so everyone did an incredible job. So I just want to take that opportunity just to thank them and just make sure you're aware of that.
Wow,
Yeah.
that was packed.
Yeah,
Sounds like we're in good hands.
yeah, feels good.
Yeah,
Thank you.
and one of the critical relationship that we have is with the chief as well. And so thanks for going out to the departments, to each of the stations and each shift. And I know that's a heavy lift. And but I think that's a great play. I just encourage you, Derek, to continue doing that as you can. Your schedule's going to get crazy, but just having that connection at that level is super impressive, and I'm thankful that you're doing that. And you and I've talked about you and your son going out to the rescue and then going to the flood and things like that. It's for me, just as a board member, to hear that you're out doing those things is really encouraging. And I think it's demonstrating leadership. And so what I'm encouraged about is how people are rallying around you as well. I'm super excited about that. And I don't know if the board hears it as much as I do, but just the way in which your team's rallying and supporting, and they're grateful for your first set of eyes and your competencies and all that sort of stuff. And so, I just want to express my appreciation for the way in which the team is. I mean, it's really, really important for people back there to really support this person in this role. And I know you're doing that, and I know change is hard, but as Derek said, I've known him for a long time, and I see his deep care for this place and for you guys as leaders as well, and a chief who's attentive to board needs as well. So I'm So thanks for the updates. Really appreciate it and the work, Derek. We're lucky to have you, in my opinion.
I'm lucky to be here. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I think we're off to a great start. Good summer, things are going well, so leadership is important. And thank you for your efforts.
Well, I'm not going yet.
Well,
I am planning an October retirement. So we'll get through the budget.
I just want to recognize you, that you appreciate what you've done for us. We'll miss you too. Anything else to come before the board?
I just want to mention the thing we talked about yesterday on LIDA. That, and I just wanted to, for this board, say, add my support to possibility of Derek being on the LIDA board. So we, as I read through that, I don't know why it never dawned on me before, but we really, our representation is really through the city or the county. There's no specific fire representation on there, so I think maybe Loveland was on there as fire. were they?
Yeah. I know Darren was gonna talk with the director.
But anyway, I for one support that.
That's a good observation. Thank you, so. Anything else? Aaron, we will miss you. Good luck on your new venture.
Thanks, Mike.
Come and see us.
I will, I think, not at the board meeting.
You serving cake?
Maybe we'll do it on the
Yeah,
back
serving
porch or on
cake.
it with a fishing pole. So
Sounds good to me.
there's no other business coming before the board. We're adjourned.
All right.
Thank you.
that responded on that. It was good recognizing, hey, here's a person we have trained before. And it's just going to continue expanding upon that. And like you said, once we go through CSURF, we do have money that's designated to kind of get this thing kicked off, as does the city. And the city's going to probably benefit first thing because their plan is to put in the power poles and to get into the water infrastructure, also with the utility locates on that side of it. So any questions?
Mike, I have a couple of questions.
Okay, Dave.
The first is, I think that, or maybe this is just a comment, that this being phase one and the utility making an investment of about $200,000, it seems like we're not only approving this phase one, but whatever might happen in the future, which we don't have any information on, or at least it hasn't been presented to us. So that's one thought. I'd like to hear some thoughts on it. And the second is, obviously our Poudre Fire boundary goes outside the city of Fort Collins, and I wondered if anybody had also approached REA or other utilities that might want to be a part of this. I wouldn't want to throw a wrench in this whole process, but it seems like, obviously Poudre Fire Authority is bigger than the city. So what are your thoughts on those two questions?
Go ahead.
So as far as future phases, those are all going to be subject to budget appropriations, both from us for PFA related facilities and from the city on their utility related infrastructure. So, if what you're concerned about is that we're starting down a road that we can't stop, well, there's a lot of decision points in the future about whether we want to continue on a specific piece of infrastructure or prop. So it's not like this is the only decision that you'll have. I'd like Brandon to talk about the REA piece of it as well, and users beyond PFA and city utilities.
Yeah, I guess I'd add, the vision is, you're absolutely right, Dave, is this would be, the hope is if we build it, they will come. And we already work with REA side of it in our large animal rescue and have an agreement on that side of it with their boom trucks. I know with the city and REA, they also, from the light and power side of it, do things to support each other, especially like days like today when we get into potentially high arcing power lines. Understanding of how big this potentially could be and how it can really benefit this region, and talking to the city and just with our thing is trying to keep it with our two entities right now. Obviously this property is in the county on that side of it. And it's going to be a process. And the idea is to let's start small within our group that we can keep and understand, knowing this new relationship, we have to go through all these steps. We're already providing regional training for Poudre Fire Authority. I know for the city, they're doing it with their employees and being able to expand, that this is just going to be an opportunity, because right now city utilities doesn't have the training facility. They're training it as they identified, I think it was in 2016, when they identified the need for the training facility. And just to recap, they were going to a site just on the north side of the city of Loveland's city limits. And this just makes a lot of sense for them. And I think once we build this, it's all about bringing what we can for Northern Colorado, have the facilities. And it's just something that you don't see generally with the fire departments and city utilities, or like in the case with REA, XL, that kind of thing. Is now we'll have a platform to actually begin that process. When you do regional classes, and kind of like we do now, is you kind of do the pay to play when you bring on a class. Or it could just be, those line crews getting together that we have facility, and that's our partnership and which is the intent of us getting the land, is about, public safety and having a place to train our first responders. And now in this case, it's just the utilities department has a different use for these props, and that's to train their new workers, to keep up their skill sets and to expand their skill sets. Obviously, for the maintenance on that side of it and building things, for us, it's rescue and understanding the facilities and the dangers and the hazards behind that and how we can safely do that in a controlled atmosphere. That answer your
Okay.
question?
Yes, thank you.
And I would kind of dovetail on that. It's the regional approach and across those boundaries, and I've had this discussion with the board before. And one of my beliefs is that a big, strong role of local government is not only public safety and the response side, but also community risk reduction. And risk reduction also applies to our responders, and a lot of the props and stuff that will be built in the world of utilities are things that, such as a trench rescue thing that we do now, or a vault, or any of those things that we're talking about are things that we are going to respond to in conjunction with those folks. So, Mike coming from Fort Collins, Loveland, water, there'll be opportunities then for those regional things. And most of our outreach to those are going to be through our utilities department, who already partners with them. So it's great opportunity. And I think that we've got a pretty good handle on that. And I really appreciate Chief Garcia's growth for that, keying on that.
So it'd probably make sense for us to go ahead with this but also communicate to those other utilities. And Tom, you reminded me of the other water utilities as well. Electric, water, obviously gas isn't included, but Excel, we might want to notify people we have those. But we're putting that facility in, and that we would welcome their participation.
Yeah, this is getting us on the start to that.
Yeah, okay.
Any other questions from the board? We'll entertain a motion then to adopt the agreement.
I don't have the resolution number, but I'll make a motion to approve the joint training facility with Fort Collins facilities.
And just so you all know, before you vote, Darren had to step out for another meeting that he had to attend.
I'll second it.
Motion and second. All those in favor of the approval of the agreement, say aye.
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 Motion.
Much appreciate it. We'll keep you up to date on how it progresses.
Thank you.
This is a good move, Brandon and Ann. Thank you for your efforts in making this happen, because that's a good regional cooperative move, I think. So thanks again.
Yeah, it's really a personal passion for Brandon, and glad to see this day for him.
Yeah, good job. Okay, very good. I think we're all done with our action items, and we're ready to listen to the briefing papers from the chief and other staff members. Tom?
Well, what I will add on the briefing papers that you see, and that's the activities, is one of the things that Chief Garcia has discussed as well with him coming into this position is working with our battalion chiefs to come with a central messaging point. So I know that, especially going back to when Dick Rayner was on this board, is that this is a great way for the board to see what our people on the ground are doing. Show you that they are every day called to the task of what they do to practice their craft, and it's a great way to show the board how that's working. And we're working on centralizing that report into one central report rather than through the different shifts. And Chief Garcia is working on that for in the future. So I think that's going to be a great way to report that, in addition to the other stuff that are in the briefing papers. But it even is good for me to catch up on some of the calls that they've been running with the different extrications and fires and stuff. And as I said earlier, it's a great way for you on the board to see what they do each and every day.
Any board member have any questions regarding the briefing papers?
I do again. Sorry, Mike.
Hey, Dave, you go right ahead.
Hey, Tom and maybe Ann and Kirsten, on the dashboard for the revenues and expenses. You know, we show 142,748 revenue and it's 3.18%, but the dashboard doesn't tell us whether that's 3.18% above or below. And I think it might be useful or enhance our dashboard to say that. And the same thing with the expenses, you know, and that's pretty obviously we're over 25.9%, right? So anyway, just some thoughts there for you to think about, okay?
I'll
You
look
see
into
what I-
that, Dave. Yeah, thank you.
And maybe a good
Yeah.
opportunity for a refresh on this report too. So we haven't had a refresh on it for a while. So maybe it's a good time to think if there's anything new that we could share, or maybe that's something we want to discuss with the next chief as well, of preferences on how we report this kind of information. But yeah, if we get to the point where we just look at it and it's say we don't-
Right, it's clear to you guys, obviously.
Right.
It's just a suggestion for the dashboard.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, two other comments. One is, and Tom, this goes back to the comment you continually make, is about the character of our firefighters. And I noted in there, I think it was the C shift did for Christmas toys to kids, disadvantaged kids, and I thought that was really great. The other thing that struck me as I read through these reports with all the training going on and people moving around is that I think, Tom, you've put into place and or staffs put into place this awesome succession training plan. So if we have an opening, we've got somebody ready to jump right into it. So I certainly appreciate that.
Well, I'll comment on the latter first. We hire great people, and we have people who really are focused on professional development, and we are pretty intentional about our succession plan. As I say, right now today, we've got 12 individuals that are taking their captain's test, and that's that first line of supervision. And we have excellent candidates that are coming out of that, and we will be promoting some of them in February. The other thing about the outreach for the holiday gift giving, that's a department-wide thing that's
Okay.
the local 1945 really keys on that. They even jumped in. They bought extra wrapping paper this year. They started a coat drive and got coats purchased for those kids as well. Also during the holidays, we have the Care and Compassion Fund that Chief Vandervelde started. So when our crews go out and someone needs, they need a water heater or whatever it might be, that rather than digging in their own pockets to replace that, they have a fund to go to. So over the holidays, we found someone who was down on their luck and needed tires for their car to be able to get to work, and the whole department just jumped in, and the Care and Compassion Fund was able to jump in and help that person who we encountered from a call. So we hire very compassionate people, and they're very driven by they're passionate about that compassion, and we're grateful for that. So I'm glad you saw that in there, Dave. That's why we like to get these reports to you. That we, as I like to say, we hire hearts, and we'll get them the skills to be firefighting, but they're deep firefighters. But we're really keyed on that heart.
Any other board discussion regarding the correspondence? Board member have anything else to come before the board? If not, then looks like we're through the agenda, so we'll call the meeting over. Thank you.
See y'all later.
See you all later. Bye.
Next, yep, bye.